Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of the show. I'm Joe, and I get to be the host today. This is the absolute best part of my every week, and I didn't sleep very well last night. I was kind of giddy. This is going to be a fun one. I have the distinct pleasure of introducing. I'm going to call him the campus culture whisperer. Yeah. Dr. Randy Van Wagner, president of Mohawk Valley Community College. Thanks for joining us today, Randy, and welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. Glad to finally make it to the show.
Fantastic. I need to point something out right away. Full disclosure, I don't think my parents would have allowed me to play with you back in the day.
Yeah, I didn't mean to say, come on. I don't...
We might need to either call your admin or mine because we're kind of troublemakers, and we might get, do something to get us, one of us or both of us, canceled or something.
Hey,
like that,
who
right?
knows? Who knows? Play it by ear. See where it goes.
Right. Hey, I have been an absolute fanny of your spunk, your energy, your that sense of humor. Tell me, who doesn't like your sense of humor these days? Anybody?
I'm sure I missed the mark too often with some bad dad jokes and whatnot.
Your levity is off the charts. Seriously, you are one of the real humans in the business, and that's something that I've noticed and appreciate, and I want to edify that in my life as well. Being very, very relevant by being just real, and that's when I think of you. Yeah.
I when I sat down with we did a workshop years ago with students, and it was writing your life story in 6 words, a 6-word sentence, and the power of that. And like I almost didn't have to think, the words just came right out, and it was living way beyond my wildest dreams. And that's what this community college presidency and really my entire career has been for me as a first generation college student myself.
That's amazing. Living way beyond my wildest dreams. Could be the cover of your next book. I want to talk a little bit. I talk smart about the power of healthy culture and reliable campus systems, but you, sir, you've made a life out of leading from a very practitioner lens to that. In fact, the data talks about, we do research every year, and the data talks about, it's like anywhere between 76 and 80% of college presidents say that culture is the foundation of their performance. But when you scratch into that a little bit more, you find that between 12 and 15% actually have a culture strategy.
Powerful stuff.
That's a gap. Tell me your theory. Why is there such a gap between the knowing, yep, we know, and the actual doing of it?
Yeah, I only know my own story on that. I don't know if it's the day-to-day grind that people get caught up and they get in these situations, and it suddenly the rhetoric and reality get detached. But I went to graduate school at 22 with my communications degree after playing golf in college and not really very academically focused. But I had gone to Mott Community College in Flint, Michigan, and that experience was such an awakening for me, with the community college faculty just wrapping themselves around me. I had the opportunity to go back 30 years later make an all college keynote presentation there, and I named every one of my faculty members by name at Mott Community College. So I wanted to go to graduate school and teach at a community college. And I ended up changing my major in graduate school to go over to higher education administration. And Dick Alfred was the professor there and my mentor to this day. And he said, you don't want to teach at a community college. You want to be an administrator. You want to lead. And stick with me, and you'll be a president by the time you're 40. You want to go into institutional research, because community colleges don't know anything about themselves, and every department needs data. And you'll learn the entire operation that way. And I was 22 and said, okay. And I had the opportunity to go to work at Washtenaw Community College in Ann Arbor. and in institutional research. And my first boss, Jackie Parks Andrews, was the director of IR, and she would literally walk me across campus to the meeting, take me to meetings with her, describe what the meeting was about, what her intentions would be, and then on the way back, ask me for my observations and answer any questions I had. And everything was about culture to her.
Wow, what a
And
model.
there I was, 23, 24 years old, getting that type of mentorship so early on. And then Dick Alfred, he created the Strategic Horizon Network with a couple of forward-thinking presidents to bring teams of faculty and staff together twice a year to study disruptive innovation and vibrant culture outside of higher education. And after he retired in 2016, MVCC has been the host of that network for the last 8 years. And that has been a 25-year apprenticeship on culture.
Aren't we done with outside disruptions? Aren't we?
Yeah.
Hasn't that been pretty well established by now? Or?
Well, AI is kind of taken over the focus of disruption these days.
What an exciting time to be a college president.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
for sure.
Absolutely. So I've got a maybe it's a silly definition, but I like to ask really the smartest people I bump into that understand the power of culture and that have studied deeply. What's your best definition? What's your best definition?
Culture. In my book, I started it out by saying culture is everywhere and nowhere. It's everything and nothing. It's when things are going right, it's the culture.
Yeah.
And when things are going bad, it's the culture.
Yes.
And it's everything. But then when you ask people to define the culture, they get caught up in subculture definitions. And sometimes I think places they've had so much turnover at the top, they lack an overarching culture.
Right.
Of those, Edgar Schein, the shared values and beliefs. And I love the image of the iceberg of, just the artifacts are mostly what you see above the waterline with culture, but then culture shows up in comments in hiring, screening committees,
right.
that turn hiring processes a certain way because there are these quiet, hard to see norms that have been established and are hard to get at if you don't if they're not tended to over time and shaped
exactly
in a certain way.
I fell into this work as well by doing my own research, trying to prove that the leader's behavior had direct impact on overall student achievement or performance.
Mm-hmm.
And I would pull my hair out. This used to be deep brown, and my hair got a different color because I just got so stressed out because I could not prove anything significant to leader behaviors and performance. But this aha moment when I determined through the research and crunching data that the behaviors have impact to something else that has impact to over. Yeah, that's where I fell in love with culture, because it's the transformer of all things good and productive. But like you said, on the inverse of that as well, if you see things going a little bit sideways, it's because of that. So
yeah, I've got an interesting theory that I've been evolving over the years. That
let's hear it.
In terms of leaders moving too fast.
Mm.
One of the mentor of mine, David Hartlibb, who is the president of Northern Essex Community College for I think 12 or 14 years ago. And when I asked him what's the hardest part about being a president, he said a patient sense of urgency. Maintaining a patient sense of urgency. And as I look back as a dean and a vice president and now president in my 18th year, thinking about organizational change, which my dissertation at Michigan was factors that influence the perception of change, that related to culture, leaders at any level need to surface the culture, understand the behaviors, touch the culture by introducing some small risk, high impact change, followed by moving the culture, a
Mhm.
higher risk, higher impact move uh, that generates results that show people things are going to be different if we behave in these new and different ways.
Right.
Um, and those results create a sense of self-efficacy and generates momentum. And across those 5 phases, I think depending I say at the dean department level, it might be 6 months, VP maybe 6 months to a year, and president 12 to 18 months. And I think I've seen more, particularly presidents, more often than not, they start at 3. They skip the surface, the culture. They skip
Just
the
chip
touch, the
right over it.
culture,
They're
and
chipping
let's
right
just
over
go
it.
right to it. Let's gut the cabinet. Let's do a reorg and wake this place up. And then the change doesn't stick
Yeah.
in year 1, and then consternation in year 2, and then it takes the board and the president years 3 and 4 to kind of work out an exit. And lo and behold, we have a 5-year average tenure of a community college president.
Yeah.
And think of the faculty and staff serving the students. There's so much churn at the top. I'm just going to do my job.
Mhm.
And it breaks my heart to think of colleges where the cultures are just, they're almost a form of odd torture in some way. Doesn't happen all the time, but I have enough. I've seen it enough to
Well, you're the
think
anomaly.
about
You've
that.
you've you've stuck around on this campus since what, 2007?
Yep.
Yep.
In my
Um,
18th year, I like to say I'm in my 3rd presidency. So
there
it
it
just
is.
happens to be at the same institution. So
That's beautifully put. Beautifully put. I also think culture is like the editing software, right? You come into a new organization and
mhm.
you take a look at, okay, what are the demands? What are the needs? What are the values? And the culture just is that, okay, here's what we need to kind of usher out because it no
Mhm.
longer fits us anymore. But here are some of the things that come. It's time for you now, right?
Yes.
Over that course of time since 2007, what are some of think about what has been edited out and maybe some of the things that are editing in that are now standard that you've edited into you, not just you, I think, your entire organization. Healthy people, you become healthy leaders, and then they build these healthy teams that shape culture. So what are some of those things that have been edited in perhaps or out at
Yeah.
MVCC?
The biggest thing for me in editing out, I like to call it white noise
Mm,
of, when, uh, and that white noise often happens through governance or in the lack of any semblance of governance. The hallways, where parking is the worst possible, it's just absorbing all this, the organizational bandwidth of parking and the academic calendar, and having fights over things that, we're in our 70th year as an organization. Can't we figure this out by now? And people are still chirping about it. That if you can reduce the white noise, I think through good and effective shared governance systems, that you can then dial up the importance of what we're really talking about. And we're talking about teaching and learning, and we're talking about student success, and we're talking about financial health of the organization and enrollment. And uh, so reducing the white noise. And then for me, inserting um, things like the Gallup Strengths Finder, very organically over a 10-year period. We started, as I say, very organically. I posted my first blog in 2007, and it said, describe yourself. So I listed my top 5 Gallup strengths, and a counselor came in and said, a faculty and I are doing some stuff with strengths. Could we do more and get some more training? And fast forward 15 years later, and we've got 83% of our full-time employees have taken strengths, and having more conversations about strengths with each other.
yeah.
And all of our matriculated students, degree seeking students, take the Strengths Finder, get a whole new vocabulary about how to think about themselves. So a strengths-based culture, employee recognition, professional development, and
So
spending time with governance. I think too many leaders avoid it as shared governance. It's going to slow your organization down. And having gone through multiple reorgs throughout my career, I think you can either flip the switch and spend 2 years cleaning it up, or engage shared governance and engage people a little more bottom up, more input and engagement. Might take 2 years to do, but it's going to be stickier.
Yeah.
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 So,
Sustainable.
yeah.
You don't
Yep.
have that churn. As
And
one married to an educator, seeing a lot of churn, and she doesn't necessarily care about the district's strategic plan. She just cares about the conditions for her success. And yeah, you seem to be, just on point to all things. I'd love to just hear you brag a little bit. We don't have a whole lot of time here, but MVCC, you're on the move. What are some real exciting initiatives that you currently have underway?
well, thanks for asking. We've been on a journey. I say my second presidency was 2014 to 2022, because we joined the Achieving the Dream Network in 2014. And of course, this is all in the rearview mirror. I didn't think in the time I was starting my second presidency, but when we joined the Achieving the Dream, we were on the backside of the enrollment of the Great Recession, and then that moved into Guided Pathways, and we went from middle of the pack among the 29 two-year community colleges within the state universities system in New York to having the highest graduation rate.
Wow.
We served the second poorest student population of Pell eligibility. And these last 2 years, we work with our friends at Lorain County Community College, Marcia Ballinger and her team there in Ohio. And they shared their free fast track model of workforce development. And it's lightning in a bottle. We braid 17 different workforce development funding streams through New York and otherwise. And we're basically serving 100 people a month for the last 24 months. Everything's 14 weeks or less. Everything's free. Develop skills to lead directly to a job. You don't need a 2-year welding degree. Just get the stick welding and go to work.
Yeah.
And see how that's, and we've got workforce navigators for case management, wraparound supports, to put them in that extended career pathway, because so many people don't think they're college material because they can't put their lives on hold for 2 years. But just take a class, 15 weeks or less. We've trained over 180, actually over 200 teacher assistants in the last 2 years, to begin that teacher assistant and get them on a path to becoming a teacher through just a 15-week class. Actually, a teacher aide can, in 24 hours in New York State, a 24-hour workshop. The barrier, $105 to get fingerprinted and the use of a credit card. We take care of all of that for the student.
You've eliminated the friction. We got
right.
you.
That's right.
It'll just take a minute. Just take
and
a
then,
minute.
And then now we're part of the Achieving the Dream Community Vibrancy cohort, looking at postgraduate outcomes, which is Aspen Institute 3.0, postgraduate outcomes and family sustaining wages. And we're excited to be one of 6 founding members of the Jobs for the Future 75 Million Network, looking to put 75 million people who face systemic barriers to quality jobs in quality jobs by 2033. And all of that gets me excited for what I call my third presidency now. That is definitely where we're headed.
I take back that comment about my parents maybe not allowing me to, you're solid all the way through. I love the fact that you talked about changing the systems and structures, right? In order to, some would argue that, culture changes systems. I think you need to take a healthy look at your systems and structures, actually, to inform what's most important to people like us. We do things like this, right? Not a problem. We're going to take care of this for you. That's just amazing. I wish we had a couple more hours and I would order pizza for us, but we don't. To cap this off, your colleagues are watching. They're running hard. They're lifting heavy things. They're working to build transformative cultures as well. What last wisdom or just piece of encouragement would you have to just capstone our little jam session here today?
Well, as I reflect, I've done a lot of inner work over the last 2 years, thinking about this time in the windshield, looking at starting my third presidency, and the idea of slowing down
Mm.
and choosing my uh, examining patterns and choosing my points of entry into the culture with greater leverage. Um, Someone who's in, year 4 to 8, somewhere in there, 1 through 3, you're it's fire
Right.
hydrant time, but 4 through 8, slowing down and looking for patterns and changing, looking for the levers to change the culture in the right way, and thinking back to those 5 phases of culture change I mentioned. Um, what are the ways in which you're going to move the culture to generate the results, to get the momentum? Focus on that
Mm.
versus fixing the academic calendar, you know, um, of that has marginal impact. For
Right.
go for the big leverage. I'd say slow down to speed up.
And just another practical, tactical piece on there. Give yourself some space on Sunday, right? Tell your calendar what it must do for you to ensure that level of focus on the most important pieces. Like I said, I wish we had more time. Thank you. Thanks
Oh,
for
I
you
appreciate
running
the
really
opportunity,
fast
Joe.
today. We've just covered a smidge of all that is good and productive on that campus of yours. I would encourage our listeners to check MVCC out. They're definitely a campus modeling a really impressive way. MVCC.edu, correct?
That's the place.
That's how they track you down. To our viewers, thank you. Thank you for tuning in. This has been the show with Joe, reminding you that everyone deserves to live in a environment served by healthy leaders like this amazingly healthy person, building highly reliable systems. Before we wrap up, I really want to just thank you for tuning in. If you found any value, do what the kids do, right? Like it, leave a comment, subscribe to the YouTube channel, all the things. Until next time, this is Dr. Joe on purpose to cancel all things and anything average. Peace and press on, friends.